Writing advice novels. This is the phrase that I used to search on Google because I just felt like it. No, actually, so, when you look up writing advice for novels, books, any kind of particularly fiction writing, you'd find a whole list of websites on Google, and you click on it, and you're like, this is writing advice. Is it actually helpful? And sometimes you don't even know if it's helpful until you actually try it yourself. And I have been writing for over 10 years, and sometimes I think I'm thinking for quite some time that maybe writers have been doing other writers dirty without even realizing it, even me. What I mean is that maybe the advice that we're giving is subjective or fluffy or not actually true or twisted in some way without meaning to twist it. We're not meaning to be evil advice givers. We're just, and we think, oh, this advice will be helpful, but maybe it's actually not. So that's what we're going to talk about, basically focusing on one website. Well, we'll get into that. So, hi. I haven't introduced myself at all in the last video. So, my name is Enna, and Enna Foxwood, or you can call me Fox or whatever you want. I've been writing for 10 years. Over 10 years, actually. I started out on Figment. I don't know if any of you know about Figment, but it was a great writing website that is sadly gone, and the community built there was so beautiful. Everyone is still sad about it. But I moved on to Wattpad, and you might be thinking, oh, Wattpad, that fan fiction site. Well, yes, there is a lot of fan fiction, but there are also other books, and I've found some great books on there to read. And I'm also posting some of my work on Wattpad at the Tiger Writer. I think you can find that if you go to my YouTube profile page thing about me. I think it's in there. I'm not sure. In any case, it's at the Tiger Writer with all the first letters of the word. Anyway, I also have a website that needs revamping because it's about writing advice, and that's what we're going to talk about. And yes, created videos in the past, it says. I have created videos in the past on YouTube. I have created random, silly little singing videos, opinion pieces, really random, silly stuff on YouTube showing my face. And I'm not showing my face because, I don't know, I just don't feel like it, and I'd rather not show my face on the internet. Why this content? Now, I don't even know why I put that down there. See, I made these slides like 3 weeks ago, so I don't exactly remember my full intention of why it says why this content. I did kind of explain in the beginning, so I don't think I'm going to need to explain that again. If you have questions, of course, I'd be happy to respond to your questions in the comments. Fox note. So it says not a footnote, but a fox note. Get it? I don't know if that's a good pun or anything. So it says I make these quickly, but try to do them well. I don't make these quickly, actually. Yes, I'm a busy person. I sometimes forget to say things, so I'm going to have a lot of the notes on the slides, and I also did that so that if I say something, then it's going to be there, so then you can say, oh yeah, she did actually say that. If I give any weird opinion, it's going to be on the screen, unless I have something extra to add, then that won't be on the screen, obviously. So the next Fox note is, yes, wordy for you. Basically, since this is a faceless channel of faceless content, my idea, my hope, my dream maybe is that you'd probably be able to have me on in the background and just, do other things while you're listening to me. I hope my voice isn't annoying or anything. Try not to be annoying. Try to be clear, and sometimes I might stumble over words because I actually don't do a lot of talking, usually. So when I do these videos, I'm talking a whole lot. And I might stumble, I might pause to have a drink of water or drink some coffee that you have right beside me. And you can also have coffee or water besides you. Please do stay hydrated. And listen to my video presentation thing. So anyway, we're getting into this thing. Look at this thing. It looks like a reference list for some academic thing. Top 3 results of my search Google writing advice novels. So I went to and I looked up writing advice novels. Those are the exact words that I used. I said writing advice novels. I'm doing hand gestures right now and realizing that you can't see me. Anyway, so this is the top, well, 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, these were the top websites that came out on the list. First, Curtis Brown Creative and Masterclass, very popular, and Writer's Digest, or is it Digest? I think it's Digest. And this is the Writer's Digest one is the one I am going to be looking at today with you guys. So basically, okay, what it says on the side is that I'll be going through all of these as part of my series. It's a series. Let's go back for a second. Writers aren't always right. Get it? Because right and right. That's the series. This is episode 1, by the way. Yeah, and I'm just saying over there on the side that, and mine, my advice, writing advice on my website might also be also have flaws, because I thought I was giving good advice, but maybe it's actually fluffy advice, doing writers dirty. Maybe it's actually subjective. So my hope is that after we go through these series, we're going to be able to figure out what is the best writing advice, or if writing advice in general is actually always subjective, or can it be objective? I just want to help writers. That's the thing. Like if you've been doing something for a long time and you feel like you have skills to share to newbies and other writers who are still learning, and you want to help them out, don't you? If you have some skills that you're good at, you want to help them out. So, yeah. And I have a writing website, for crying out loud. So I'm hoping that through this, that I can finally find the advice. Maybe there are some objective or general pieces of advice that we can figure out through this, and then I can put on my website. I want my website to be helpful. I want to give advice that's, actually not helpful. When it ends up giving them writer's block or something. I don't want to do that. So that's what this is for. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. I don't have a script, by the way. I'm doing this all off the top of my head, and also looking at the notes on the screen and the writing on the screen. So if there are some things, sometimes I might repeat myself. I have a tendency to repeat myself and over-repeat myself and continuously repeat myself, even though I'm realizing I'm repeating myself. Anyway, we're moving on. So yes, Fox note. I'm going to be mostly reacting. So I looked at the website, the Writer's Digest website is the first one, right? So I'm going to be reacting and giving some of my opinions. And yes, as I said, the purpose is this advice actually helpful? And does it give what the article title says? So, the articles have titles. They are promising to give this to you. So when you go to the article, you're hoping to find that. You're hoping that the article isn't clickbait, right? We say videos do clickbait, but I definitely think articles do clickbait, and I think everyone can agree on that one, right? Yes, I hope so. So, this is the article, the Writer's Digest article. This was published on July 12, 2022, and this is 7 tips for writing novels people want to read. So when you look at this title, it's 7 tips for writing novels people want to read. So we're hoping to find out what is the secret ingredient to writing a novel that makes people want to read it. That's really important because as a writer, and if you're publishing, then you want people to want to read your book so that you can make a living, right? And that you can get your book out there, right? So we're hoping that this is going to tell us how to write a novel that makes people want to read it. And that seems really juicy, doesn't it? And this is by author Ruby Dixon. And now, when I first looked at this article, I didn't recognize Ruby Dixon, to be honest. I don't know every single book in the entire universe, obviously. So, I didn't really know her. But when I saw the cover of the book, then I recognized it because, anyway, we'll get into that later. I promise you. First tip, read the genre you want to write. Okay, so this quote, anyway, read the genre you want to write, and then it begins saying, this one is so important it needs to be stated twice. And then on the article, it actually is stated twice. So number 1, the first tip is read the genre you want to write. And the second tip is also read the genre you want to write. Get it? Because it needs to be stated twice. And this is the screenshot. So basically, I screenshotted every single piece of advice. Tedious, I know, but I think it's necessary. It's, if you don't really want to go to the article, you can actually see the screenshot. And if you want to see if I didn't do any editing to the screenshot, you can actually go to the article and see that it's actually screenshotted. What it says here, this is in number 2, because number 1 is just read the genre you want to write. Tip number 2 is read the genre you write. And then it says this. No, seriously. Research isn't only for nonfiction, my friend. If you want to know what readers are expecting from your genre, you need to read, it's italics, that genre. You need to have a good understanding of the tropes that work and the tropes that don't work. Okay, so there's this thing about tropes, and I did the last video was the 21 popular fantasy tropes, and that video was also a Writer's Digest article, actually, and it was the 21 popular fantasy tropes, and maybe there are genre-based tropes, but I think there might be ways, tropes, not really tropes that don't work and don't work. I think what should be said is tropes that are for your genre or not for your genre. Because if the trope, like the popular fantasy trope, one of them was the having mythical creatures. And, you could have mentions of mythical creatures in a, I don't know, nonfiction book or something, but but it's not the trope. He's just mentioning it. So, I think tropes can be genre specific, and maybe instead of saying tropes that work and don't work sounds like, in general. I don't know. It just doesn't sound specific enough to me. Anyway, let's read on. You need to know what's been done to death 1,000 times and what's new and fresh. Okay, so I've seen some talk from other writers on like the writing forum, Wacky Writers, which you guys definitely check out. I'm on there, by the way, and you need to know what's been done to death 1,000 times. Even if something has been done to death 1,000 times, if you can repurpose it, make it new and fresh. You don't have to try to find something new and fresh, because in the end, at this time, I know we've been human beings have been writing stories for centuries. It's been done already, everything, probably. There's so many things that have been done to death 1,000 times, and yet you can still write stories with them. It's not like you can't use them. Anyway, moving on. Reading now. You need to love, italics, that genre, and have respect for it. I don't care if you're writing books about 7-foot-tall blue aliens who are obsessed with finding their soulmates, hello there, or if you're writing a thriller about a gritty Navy SEAL who has to stop a military coup. Yeah, well, I don't know what she's talking about here. I don't care if you're writing books about, well, yeah, I mean, because this is coming from Ruby Dixon personally, so she's saying that, I guess. I don't know. Is this a tip for writing novels that people want to read? Read the genre you write. Well, some people say you should read the genre that you write. Yes, but I think many people will agree that you should also read books in other genres. So I read a lot of just mystery fiction, like human drama type of books, and that inspires me to when I write relationships in my own book. So I write fantasy, and it's not like the characters don't have relationships. Of course, they're going to have relationships, and of course, you can just read fantasy and get inspiration from that. But you get, you can add in other things to make it more engaging and rich. If you read books from other genres, and you can, and maybe even nonfiction books, how human beings actually act and that sort of thing, and they can inspire you not just for human characters but for non-human characters, and really make the story engaging, and then it will become a story that people will want to read, right? I hope so. What do you think? Read the genre you write. Yes, and that's the first tip. Well, I don't want to put too much silence in my videos because I don't have any music in my videos. I could, but it's just so much with editing, and I don't want to bother editing my videos because I don't get joy out of that. I get joy out of making these. Anyway, so I'm just going to be kind of talking right now and putting my voice into the video. Read the genre you write is the first tip for writing novels. I say if it's not just read the genre you write, but read the genre you write and also look at other genres to expand your knowledge. I don't know, something like that. Might have been better. We're moving on. We have 7 to cover. Okay. Come on. Move. Okay, there we go. I have to click the screen to activate it. Okay, the next one. The next one is the rest of it. Sorry, this was the first tip. This is also still the first tip. I forgot that I did that. Probably because it was so long. Let's see. It doesn't matter what genre it is. Yes. Okay, now we're going on. Okay, I jumped on the thing, whatever you call it, too quickly. She does say, it doesn't matter what genre it is, just make sure that you have a healthy respect for the niche. Oh, respect. Okay, so she's saying back here, you need to love that genre and have respect for it. Respect for a genre? What does that really mean? It doesn't matter what genre it is, just make sure that you have a healthy respect for the niche you're writing in and those who read it. If you're trying to write something that you want readers of that genre to pick up, the worst thing you can do is ignore the unspoken rules of the genre. What are those unspoken rules? You'll know them if you read the genre. I'm laughing because, no, you won't know them. You need to have read maybe even, okay, so I've been reading a lot of middle grade fantasy recently, and just because I've been reading a lot of middle grade fantasy doesn't mean I can grasp the unspoken rules for if I wanted to write a middle grade fantasy, because middle grade fantasy, you know, you have upper middle grade, you have lower middle grade, or whatever they call it, and they all do it slightly differently, and sometimes it's upper middle grade, but it seems more like it could be for almost young adult, but it doesn't really go into that genre. You know, there's all kinds of ways that people write middle grade, and there's all kinds of ways that people write middle grade fantasy. So if you read it, you won't grasp the unspoken rules. You'll probably not grasp the unspoken rules and be super confused by the end. So saying that you'll know them if you read the genre, maybe Ruby Dixon is able to read a whole bunch of books and understand some unspoken rules about when writing that genre. Which is good. Good for her. But not everyone is going to be able to do that, you know. And she's even saying in the next sentence, no one will have to tell you. You'll know that urban fantasy readers like a strong, sarcastic heroine and cozy mystery writers love cats and witches. Okay, that is the stereotype. No. It's just no. You know, you'll know that urban fantasy readers. It says urban fantasy readers like a strong, sarcastic heroine and cozy mystery writers love cats and witches. Don't you mean cozy mystery readers love cats and witches? Because we're talking about 7 tips for writing novels that people want to read. So if you're trying to figure out what people want to read, is that a mistake? I don't know. Reading on, you'll know that every romance has to have a happily ever after, and some readers won't pick a book that has cheating in it. Okay, let me look at the next slide for a sec. Okay, we're moving on. If I was a newbie and I read that, and I would be like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Right? Read the genre you write, but also read other genres. No, it's read the genre you write, but also respect other genres. And it doesn't matter. I don't know. This isn't giving me anything. What is she trying to say? I am confused. Maybe this tip should be familiar with the genre you write. I mean, of course, for me too, fantasy. It's not like I'm writing a genre that I'm unfamiliar with. You know, I'm writing fantasy because I read not because I read fantasy, but I read a lot of fantasy, and I just like creating new worlds. And so, of course, I also read some fantasy, but I don't read a lot of fantasy, especially recent fantasy. Maybe I'll talk about that in these slides or another video. I don't know what this tip is doing. I don't think it's doing anything, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm staring at this screen. Let me go back for a second. You need to love that genre, have respect for it. And it's not that, because I don't read, see, some of the genres that I don't read sci-fi. It's not like I don't like it. It's not like I don't have respect for it. I read one sci-fi book. I've read some sci-fi books. I haven't read a lot of sci-fi books. But like, if I want to write sci-fi, would I read sci-fi? Would it help me? It would help me to understand the market, maybe. If what people want to read, it might be read the genre you write to understand what people want to read. Maybe it's read the genre you write, but also read the classic books that are in the genre you write. So, or read the popular books in the genre you write, or look up the recent popular books of the year, because that just what people want to read. If there was some book that was really popular in that year in fantasy genre, you look that up and you see what that book is about. You say, oh, so this is the kind of books that people want to read. But on the other hand, you probably not want to be obsessive about writing novels that people want to read, because in the end, you do have to like what you're writing. I don't know. Anyway, this first tip is confusing, and I'm starting to recalling 3 weeks ago when I made these slides that the following tips aren't any better. I was super confused. We'll get into it. So number 3, and this is a third tip because the first one she had to say twice because she couldn't come up with another tip. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe the publishers, writers, they just said, oh no, you can do a funny little silly thing because, anyway, I'm not going to speculate about anyone's motives. I'm going to drink some water. Excuse the silence. If you hear my water bottle, it's like a straw situation, and when I suck on it, it makes a little sound. You might hear that. It might pick up. It didn't make a sound. On the days that I thought it might be funny if it did make a sound, then it doesn't make a sound. Okay. Third tip, write every day, even if it's a paragraph. Okay, I already have problems. I remember I had problems with this when I read it for the first time. By the way, I read all the tips 3 weeks ago when I made this, but I did sort of read through the explanation of the tips, but I didn't really read the tips through. So this is my first time actually reading them with you guys, which is what I want to do. Okay, we're moving on. Let's read this screenshot caption. By the way, if my screenshots things look strange, it's because I have my screen setting on dark mode for my eyes. If that's actually hard for you to read, let me know, and I can switch it. It's fine. I can do that. Okay, so let's read. I like to think of writing the current novel as my muse putting together a puzzle piece by piece. Trying not to laugh. Okay. If you go away for a week, you're not going to remember where you put that last piece in. You might. You might remember. Just saying. If you pick at that puzzle a little every day, however, it's easier to jump right back in again. Writing a novel truly is easiest when your subconscious brain works on your novel at all times. Easiest is that's subjective. That is subjective. That's subjective, Ruby Dixon. That is subjective, Writer's Digest. Reading on. If you truly can't work on that novel every day, leave yourself focused notes on where you left off and how to start again. Before I give my thoughts, let me move on to the next slide to see what I did. Okay, that's tip 4. Okay, so this is all we get for this. Okay, first of all, write every day, even if it's a paragraph. Now, I have 2 issues with this, and these are written on the bottom as notes. So first, I have issue saying to write every day, even if it's a paragraph. It's good practice to keep your creative mind active by writing every day. By the way, side note, if you notice that the way I talk is different from the way I talk in the beginning, it's because I've warmed up. And I'm not going to record this twice. So this is the first and only time I'm going to be recording this. So if there are mistakes, there are mistakes. Okay, just letting you know. And probably my voice starts warming up after I've been talking for a while. Okay, so the first issue I have is to say write every day, even if it's a paragraph. And as I was saying, it's good to keep your mind creatively active. Yeah, it's just a good thing to keep your creative brain exercised. But not everyone can write every day. And sometimes things come up and you can't write every day. And when you're unable to write every day, some people can beat themselves up about it. Like, I didn't write today. I must not be a good writer, or, I failed. And for some people, failure is just a devastating feeling, and it can even start affecting your mental state. And if people already have some mental issues that they're dealing with daily, an added stress of writing every day, and then when you're not able to, it just might feel kind of like some added burden. I'm not saying that Ruby Dixon or Writer's Digest are trying to make people feel like they have to stress over it. They probably have very simple, kind intentions, for this. But if you are a major writing online advice website thing, like Writer's Digest, then definitely newbies are going to be stumbling upon your article and they'll read Write Every Day, even if this is written by an author, a published author, someone with success. And if they are saying that it's a good idea to do it, you're going to say, oh, I see, maybe then I should. And then you do it, and then you can't do it, and then you're like, maybe I can't be a writer. You see what I'm saying? Because that's definitely something that I would have thought like 10 years ago if I stumbled upon this, and I would have thought that, like, I can't write like every day, that even if it's a paragraph, that is impossible. How can I do that? So that means I can't follow this tip. That means I can't write novels that people want to read. You see where I'm going with this? So when you're a newbie, you don't know that the alternative is fine, meaning that you don't have to write every day. You don't even have to write a paragraph. You can write a sentence. You can write, it says write every day, even if it's a paragraph. That means she's assuming, or somebody, I just had another thought pop into my mind that Ruby Dixon probably wrote something up, and then the editor of Writer's Digest articles might have fixed it in some way. I don't know. Just saying. Somebody is assuming that if you write every day, you're writing pages. Because when you say, even if it's a paragraph, so it's like, oh, write every day, couple pages. You can also just write a paragraph. Some people might not be able to write a paragraph. See where I'm going with this? So some people might only be able to write a sentence or a few words or nothing. And that's totally fine. You don't have to write every day, is what I'm saying. And saying that this advice to write every day, what I say at the bottom is that it should be write every day, even if it's a paragraph, but you don't have to write every day and stress yourself out if you really feel like you can't do it because of your schedule or whatever else you have going on, including health and mental issues. It's fine to take it slower. It's also fine to just write a sentence. It's also fine to just write a few words. It's also fine to just write a few notes to yourself. Maybe you can't write, description or dialogue, but you can say, main character enters through door, main character sees best friend, main character is happy. And that's all you leave yourself with. And that's like the beginning or a part of the story or something like that. And that's also fine. Or if you need to exercise your creative mind every day, then you can do other creative endeavors. Like I illustrate various like foxes and other animals and maybe some of my own characters in Procreate. And that's how I exercise my creative mind. Sometimes I might make Wattpad covers. Sometimes I might read a book. Sometimes I might take a walk. Other things. Talk with my partner or whatever, just do other things to keep your brain active. I think that's sort of basically what this tip comes down to, is that every day you're, doing a little something to keep your brain active. That's all you're doing. You can even watch a YouTube video. I think, if it's engaging, then you get your mind working about things. I don't know about YouTube videos, but this is a YouTube video. You are getting your creative mind activated, trying to understand what these tips are. So that's good, right? 7 tips for writing novels people want to read is the title of the article. And then it says write every day, even if it's a paragraph. So this doesn't feel like it will have anything to do with writing a novel that people want to read. Even if I write every day, even if it's a paragraph, even if it's a sentence or a few words or some notes, that doesn't make it like I'm writing a novel that people want to read. These are just 7 tips for writing novels. You don't have to add in the people want to read part for this particular tip. It's just 7 tips for writing novels. Write every day, even if it's a paragraph. I mean, that's a pretty general writing advice kind of statement. In my opinion, advice should be crafted carefully. In my opinion, people might feel bad about themselves if they don't when they're not able to write every day and get writer's block. And in my opinion, some people won't read the paragraph underneath the advice. That's the thing. You just want the tips. You just want quickly the tips. You just quickly want the tips. People have no patience these days. So you just want tip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let me go and write my novel that people want to read. So they're not going to read the paragraph underneath. So there might be some misunderstandings too. You never know. Anyway, moving on. I don't know why I started talking so quickly at the end there. Okay. Clickety click. Clickety click. Okay. I don't know why I have a, it's not a dragonfly, what are those called? Seahorse picture here. I don't know why. Tip 4, not every page is nonstop excitement for the writer. I don't know what to feel about this. Let's read the paragraph. Let me go on for a second. Okay. I have something there. Let's see. It says, there's this myth that started somewhere that every scene you write should be fun and exciting, and if it's not, you're doing something wrong. Nope. Every scene should have a purpose. Purpose in all caps, by the way. As the writer, sometimes it's not going to be fun to write that scene that connects all the fun stuff together, but it's necessary. Know that this scene might not make you shriek with joy at the keyboard as you write it, but that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Should be not really stop excitement, period. Because if it's writing novels that people want to read, that means if the tip is just not every page is nonstop excitement, period. Then the explanation could be something like, you don't always have to have an action-packed book. Many people enjoy the slow moments, the breakdown of the character relationships, the reading the lore, depending on the person. These slow moments can really help the reader get to know the character. So you'd want to have some other slow moments in your story, some deeper conversations between your characters, and that creates this connection, closeness with the reader, and that's kind of what people want to read. See where I went with that? So saying not every page is not so exciting for a writer, this is just about writing. So I really think this is just 7 tips for writing novels. And they told Ruby Dixon, give me 7 tips for writing novels. And then whoever wrote the article said, let's add, people want to read. Because 7 tips for writing novels, obviously, isn't catchy enough. It's not going to, people aren't going to click on that. If people click on that, if there are writers, they are looking just for 7 simple tips. Anyway, so my opinion on this is that this isn't about what people want to read anymore. And this is where I'm actually saying this is kind of hard to read. Is it hard to read for you? It's hard to read for me. Why I thought this was a good idea, I don't know. Keep in mind, 7 tips, and by the 4th one, we still don't know how to write a story that people want to read. Some people, some newbies, are only going to read the headers of each point and not the inside. So this is basically what I was just telling you about. Some people who have really short attention spans are going to be like, I'm not going to read all that paragraph. That's too much paragraph to read. I'm just going to look at the tips and I'm going to move on with my life. So, and we still don't know how to write a story that people want to read. So far, if you go back to the beginning, it's just read the genre you write, which could be if you don't read the paragraphs, because paragraphs are confusing. If you don't read the paragraphs, it says read the genre you write. And that is, you can understand that, right? Maybe you need to understand, fantasy genre or romance genre, whatever. And that can give you some insights into what people want to read, perhaps. And the 3rd tip is write every day, even if it's a paragraph. 4th tip is not enough excitement for the writer. That's not telling us how to write a story that people want to read. It's not telling us. And whether or not Ruby Dixon intended this, or Writer's Digest intended this, it's coming off as kind of clickbaity. Just saying. My opinion. My personal opinion. Okay, we're moving on. The 5th one is a thing. It's a thing. It is a thing. Okay. 5th tip. I know it's hard. Keep going. That's the 5th tip. Yeah. This is all we get for the 5th tip. 5th tip. Let's read this paragraph. Anyone can get 3 chapters of a story down on paper. It's another experience entirely to write the full thing. Don't stop when it gets difficult. Acknowledge that it's difficult and keep writing anyhow. It will get easier again. I write a friend at the 70% mark of every book and complain how it's the worst thing I've ever written. Every book. And every book turns out just fine. This has nothing to do with writing a book that people want to read. And this is extremely subjective, I think. So, what I'm saying in these little notes down here, I also do academic journal writing. Yeah, that's like for my job, because this... Anyway. Yeah, no, I'm not published at all. I just do journal writing just for the heck of it. No, I'm actually trying to get published, but anyway. And one thing that you're not supposed to do in academic writing, I think any academic writing, not just journal writing, is to make big claims like everyone does this, or this is the truth, or nothing is possible. And so saying anyone might make people who can't get 3 chapters written feel a little bit down. I shouldn't even say feel a little bit down. It might make them feel like failure. Anyone can get 3 chapters of a story down on paper. No, not everyone can do that. Some people can. Like, they get writer's block, or they can't, or they are not able to, or they feel like anyone, no, not anyone. And what do you mean on paper? You mean handwriting? You mean typing? You mean a typewriter? Like, what are we talking about here? And it's another experience entirely to write the full thing. Well, that's true. I can say that. It's another experience entirely. Like, if you decide to write a flash fiction story and it's like 500 words, it's a completely different thing than writing a 50,000 word novel. It's a completely different thing. Of course it is. Of course it is. It's different from singing a little commercial jingle in front of your family and performing a song on stage. 2 completely different things, of course. I'm agreeing, but I'm also making fun of it. Yeah. My opinion. I'm going to keep saying my opinion because my opinion, really. Don't stop when it gets difficult, right? Keep trying. Don't give up. If it's writing that you're looking for, and it says, acknowledge that it's difficult and keep writing anyhow. I think she's just reiterating herself. She's just repeating herself. Don't stop when it gets difficult. Acknowledge that it's difficult and keep writing anyhow. It's basically the same thing. It will get easier again. No. No, it doesn't get easier at all. No. It doesn't. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier. In fact, I feel like it's gotten harder over the years. Personally, it will get easier. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier. And she's even saying, I write a friend at the 70% mark of every book and complain how it's the worst thing I've ever written. See, it's not getting easier. It's not getting easier. Every book turns out just fine. I made a little note. I'm saying Ruby Dixon sounds like she doubts her first draft or dislikes her story. And I really think that she's being hard on herself. Like, by the time of the 3rd book, I think you can start believing in yourself. Like, if you've written that many books, every point is like complaining how it's the worst thing I've ever written. That's a big complaint. If every book turns out just fine in the end, then I think that you're fine. Maybe has a little bit of imposter syndrome going on. Who knows? But if every single book turns out just like that, then I don't think you need to doubt yourself anymore. I think you're fine, Ruby Dixon. Yeah, so she writes a friend was kind of a weird sentence to me. Then I realized that she's probably writing an emailing a friend, or actually writing a letter to a friend. Who knows? At the 70% mark of every book and complaining how it's the worst thing I've ever written. 70% mark. I'd start complaining about my book at the 50% mark, to be honest. When you get to the midsection and it's like the build up before the climax, and it's not the climax yet, and it's just kind of a little bit slow feeling when you're writing it, and you're just like, it's not like I would complain that it's the worst thing I've ever written. Please don't complain that it's the worst thing you've ever written if every book turns out just fine. Please don't do that. You're fine. You're fine. You'll be fine. It will get easier again. It doesn't get easier, but it's hard. Writing a story is hard. This isn't a tip for writing novels that people want to read. But I can say that, yes, writing is hard, and you just have to push on and continue on. And then if you really, really want this, you will continue on, even if you start obsessing over your story to such an extent that you're having dreams about it, that you're having dreams that you're obsessing over it. Because I had a dream that I was obsessing over my story, and it's actually true that I'm kind of feeling that I'm obsessing over my story at this moment. It's a lot. It's a lot. But, you know that in the end that you'll get there, right? You'll get there because you want this, right? If you want this, then you'll get there. This is not a tip. It's a tip if you don't read the paragraph. That's the thing. Moving on. Okay, we need to clickety-click. There we go. Open sesame. Okay. So, this is tip 6. Not every book is for every reader. True. You know, it's the same as saying, like, you're not going to please everyone and that sort of thing. What I would just say about this tip, like if I was giving this tip and I was going to write something about this tip, I would say, yes, not every book is for every reader. You can't please everyone. And in the end, basically writing a book that you want to write. Write something that you want to write that you feel happy about and you feel satisfied with, and that you are happy to be the face of this book, the author of this book, and if you enjoy it, if you're enjoying writing it, people will enjoy reading it. It really shows through that if you read a book that some author wasn't enjoying writing it, you can't really tell. You can tell that they did not enjoy this whatsoever. And you can tell when they have enjoyed it that this book was important to them, because you can tell how much work and effort was put into that book. And when you're reading it, you feel engaged, you feel like you're having fun reading it, and you like the characters, or you don't like the villain, or whatever. And, you know, it's so much more enjoyable to write a book that the author actually enjoyed, because you can really tell. It's a weird thing, but you can actually really tell. I'm telling you. From experience. Okay. So that's what I would say to this tip. Not every book is for every reader. Yeah. I need a drink of coffee. Hold on. It's nice to drink coffee. Iced coffee, by the way. Cold coffee. Cold coffee. Hope you guys are drinking your water and your coffee, or your tea, or soda, or wine. I don't drink. Or maybe you drink. What else do people drink? Water, coffee, juice. You might be drinking juice. You might be sipping some juice at the moment. Or you might not be drinking anything. I encourage you to stay hydrated. This is a long video. Tip 6, not every book is for every reader. Now we're going to read the paragraph. Keep in mind what I just said of how I would expand on that tip. So this is the tip. This is the paragraph. I know we're all desperate to have our work validated, but just because you wrote it, it doesn't mean that everyone will love it. I have had many people make jokes about Ice Planet Barbarians because it's a series about aliens and humans and love and matchmaking parasites. That's okay. Not everyone has to love it. If they don't, it's just not for them. Your vision for your book is your, italics, vision, not anyone else's. It doesn't mean your spouse will enjoy what you're writing or that the guy who picks up your garbage will hail it as the next great novel. But if you know your audience, parentheses, see point 1 and point 2, I don't know what that is, they don't have to. You're writing for the fans of that thing you love, and there will always be some who don't get it. As Dita Von Teese famously said, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches. Yeah. So, Ice Planet Barbarians, I thought, wait, I've seen the cover of that book. I have seen that title. Where did I see that title? My note. I watched Amanda from Swell Entertainment. And I distinctly remember that she reacted to this book and I watched the video. It was like a 2-part because there were 2 books, I think. And I am going to link it. I am going to link her video so you can go watch it. She's highly entertaining, by the way. You should go watch Amanda from Swell Entertainment. I'll put the links to the videos in the description. I will do that. I will do that. I'm saying this right now so that I remember to do that. I should do that. Yes, I will do that. So about this paragraph, this basically sounds like Ruby Dixon is complaining to the haters of her book. What do we think about that? She is complaining that there are haters, and it's okay because there are people that also like my book. Is basically what it's coming across as, and it's not about tips for writing novels that people want to read. Not every book is for every reader isn't even a tip anymore. Tips are like this. Remember that not every book is for every reader. Or remember that you can't please everyone. But here is how you can figure out what people want to read. Please tell me. It's like we haven't gotten any answers so far. Except maybe the first one, which is read the genre you write to understand maybe the what people like to read about in your genre. Kind of what it said in that first tip. Not really. And there was something that I saw somewhere. I can't remember what drama. I watched some. I find people to be fascinating, so sometimes I keep up with the drama on YouTube for character inspiration. So there was some drama. What was it? I can't remember what drama it was, but the person who apologized or who made a video response or something like that gave a quote by a famous person to kind of come off as like some certain way. I'm not saying that she's doing this, Ruby Dixon is doing this here, but it does seem kind of odd to suddenly have a famous person at the end. Although it's a good quote. I've come across this quote because I read it and I was like, wait, I've actually heard this one before. You can be the ripest, juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates peaches. Is that the actual quote, that you are the peach and somebody who hates peaches? You know, actually, I don't hate peaches. I don't like them particularly. The kind of you can't have too many peaches. You know, your stomach could get upset if you have a delicate stomach. So I don't eat a lot of peaches. I do like them, but I don't eat a lot of them. Doesn't mean I hate them. This is not about writing anymore. Okay, we're moving on. Yes, so I say wait, and there's a panda. I thought we were talking about writing books that people, all caps, want to read. Why are we talking about? Anyway, basically, yes, I was just saying, as I was saying, when I was saying it, that this is no longer about 7 tips for writing novels that people want to read. This is why I have the title of the article on every single slide, to remind you that this is an article about 7 tips, writing tips for writing novels that people want to read. It's not 7 tips for writing novels. It's not 7 tips for being an author. It's not 7 tips about how to be a good writer. It's 7 tips for writing novels that people want to read. I want to know how to write a novel that people want to read. I want to know that. When I first saw this article, I thought, oh, hey, I've never seen an article that actually talks about writing novels that people want to read. Maybe they dissected the kinds of books, the popular books, and figured out what it is that people want to read. That is some good advice. That sounds like potential good advice, useful advice for new writers, and I want to know too. It went completely in another direction that I was not expecting. I was not expecting by the title of the article. That's what I want to say. Okay, well, we're moving on. We're moving on. Okay. The last one will blow your mind. The last tip is ignore writing advice that doesn't resonate with you. So basically, now we're being told that we can basically ignore all the advice that we're told. Let me reiterate. Now we're being told that we can basically ignore all the advice that we were told. Can you take a moment, absorb that? Can you understand exactly what was the purpose of this entire article? I mean, that's like the teacher saying, okay, class, these are the rules of the school. These are the rules of the classroom. This is how you can be a good student at this school. The last tip, ignore everything. Ignore everything that you don't agree with. There is only chaos after that. If you can't tell, okay, ignore writing advice that doesn't resonate with you. If it's by itself, like a tip, this tip is like tip number 1, an article by itself, then I can understand, because this is what I want to say. Basically, what I want to say is that not all writing advice is going to be useful to you. Maybe some of it is quite subjective, so you want to be careful with the writing advice that is given to you. You want to, what they say in academic research, you want to corroborate. You want to see if everyone is saying, a lot of people are saying this. What kind of people are they? Are they authors? Are they article writers? Are they professors? Who are these people? What are they saying? Are they all saying the same thing? And then you figure out, okay, is this actually useful to me at this moment? Do I actually need to follow this tip? If I'm writing fantasy, do I need a tip of how to write romance? Writing advice on writing romance. Do I need that? And resonate is kind of a weird word. That means that if I don't feel like it matches with me, I'm going to ignore it. It's basically what that sounds like. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes a video. Is basically what I thought. And, oh my gosh, we should talk about this. Why? Okay. Anyway, this is before reading the paragraph. Let's get into it. Yeah, it's quite long. I put it on 2 sections. So basically, the first note was sort of similar to what I already said, is that newbies can't decide what advice resonates with them or not. They are newbies. If you are a new writer, you, right now, listening or watching this video, if you are a new writer, and you were given those tips. How do you decide which one is resonate? It's just like a weird, why would you think about what resonates with you or not, like on a spiritual level or something like that. Useful would have been maybe a better choice of word. Useful to you. You can't decide. You probably can't decide, like, what do you mean, what is useful to me? It looks like everything would be useful to me. That's what I would think as a new writer. I mean, I remember when I was a new writer, looking up, like, writing advice and stuff like that, and coming across these tips, and, like, I would want to follow all of them. Because I trust the person who's giving the advice. They seem to have written, like, 5 books, or they are a famous author, and they're given this advice. I'd want to follow that, because maybe if I follow the advice, I can become as great as an author as they are. See what I'm saying? So I would want to follow all the advice, so I can decide, like, what advice I want to follow or not, right? And so I said everything resonates with them, and learning a new skill is always a bit overwhelming, you know. So when you learn a new skill, like when I first started learning, when I was first starting out as a writer, you know, it's not completely like a new skill, because it's not like I wasn't writing things, but writing a story, writing a novel is a completely new thing. And to learn, you have to learn how to write a novel. And it's always a bit overwhelming, because there's all these new things, new information coming into your noggin, and you don't really know, you know, maybe you should take all of them, maybe you shouldn't, you know, and all that. So anyway, let's read the paragraph. I haven't even gotten into the paragraph, and we already have so many things to say about tip number 7, which is the strangest tip I've ever seen, in my opinion. The paragraph reads, this first section of the paragraph: not every writer works the same. You have to figure out what works for you in the long run. If working off of bullet point outlines gives you hives, then don't do it. If you work best writing scenes out of order, then write those scenes out of order. So up until this point, she didn't talk anything about bullet point outlines or writing scenes out of order. She didn't talk anything about those points. Nothing was mentioned in the last tips about different ways of writing a novel. So suddenly she's talking about bullet point outlines, and I was kind of confused why she's suddenly talking about different ways of writing novels, because I thought we were talking about 7 tips for writing novels that people want to read. Apparently we're talking about writing techniques now. Let's next paragraph. In addition, I write by character beats instead of chapters. Pause. What are character beats? If I'm a newbie and I don't know anything about writing, and I come across this article, I don't know what character beats are. What are character beats? What do you mean character beats instead of chapters? What does that mean? Nothing. There hasn't been anything up until this point explaining what that is. It might have been nice to explain what that is. If it is, if you do want to talk to writers more about how to write, and not how to write novels that people want to read. Yeah, you get me? Okay, let's move on. Moving on. I've read dozens of writing guides that tell you that you have to have specific character arcs and a certain number of scenes per chapter. But that doesn't work for me. I follow the characters and their storyline. When I think it's an exciting place to stop the chapter, I stop it. Maybe the heroine is being attacked by Metlax. the wild ice beasts on my planet. Maybe the hero and heroine have just resonated, italics, and discovered that that's where I stop my chapter, not where a writing guide tells me. Trust your gut. The most important thing is that you keep writing, italics. Okay, so after reading this, as a writer who has been writing for over 10 years, what I have discovered maybe is that Ruby Dixon is a pantser. A pantser is someone that writes at the seat of their pants. They do not outline, or maybe they do. They might outline a little bit. But usually what I do is I sit down at my desk and I think, what is the scene that I want to start the characters at? And then I began. Character was walking through the forest and found a treasure chest. And then I just keep going, whatever comes to my mind first. And then I just keep building and building and building and building. And then I go back and edit out the plot holes and inconsistencies. That's how I write, and that's how I am a pantser. When she says, in the middle of this paragraph, I wonder if you can see my mouse. I think you can. When I think it's an exciting place to stop the chapter, I stop it. That is what I do. When I think it's an exciting place and it's a nice, not exciting place to stop the chapter, it makes sense to end this chapter here. Then I end it. And then I go on to the next chapter. And I am following a sort of basic, like I have the knowledge of a basic sort of story structure because I've been reading a lot of books. So that's where the reading the books part does help writers to write a story. Even if you should be reading books, maybe, or listening to books, audiobooks are fine too. These days, I need a drink of water. Drink your water. It's gonna be, if it's summer, it's gonna be summer where you are right now. You should drink water. You should drink lots of water. Keep hydrated. Okay. If it's actually winter because you're on the other side of the equator, you should keep warm and as much as you can. And think of something fluffy and comforting. I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, so let's get back to the paragraph. So it says, that's where I stop my chapter, not where a writing guide tells me, trust your gut. Basically, she's saying, she's saying, I don't even follow the advice that I give you. I just trust my gut. Which is fine. But that's not the purpose of this article. If I was interviewing her and asking her what her writing process is, this is a fine answer. This is fine. This is completely fine to say. No issues here. The fact that this is a 7 tips for writing novels that people want to read. And I'm reading this title over and over, and I still don't see, we're at the last tip. Yeah. That's the end. We're at the last tip. Guys, we're at the last tip, friends. I'm pausing and I'm reading this thing and it just says, I've read dozens of writing guides that tell you they have to speak. Yes, there are dozens of writing guides that do that, but that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for you. That's fine. I think maybe the tip is a little too strong worded. If she wanted to say something like tip 7, this is tip 7 shouldn't even be here. You can't say, if I wanted to reword this. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this later. Let's just move on. Okay. Yeah, the little note that says, sounds like she's a pantser. Are you a pantser, Ruby Dixon? Because that's fine. I am too. It's fine to be a pantser. And I just explained what a pantser is. It's fine. There are authors who are pantsers. There are authors who are planners. They outline every single scene, what is happening to each character. So, and I think their way is like, they make sure there's no inconsistencies and plot holes, and then they start writing. There are people who are plantsers, which is in the between. In the between. I wanted to say in between and in the middle, and it came out together. Let's go with that. In the between. It's really hard to say in the between. There is the plantsers. They plan, but then they also write on the seat of their pants. I don't really know how it works, but I think they outline a little bit more, and then they start pantsing. Their outline is probably a lot less detailed than a planner's outline. Yeah. So, and I'm a pantser. But it's not like I usually have a vague idea about what the beginning is, what's kind of going to happen in the middle, and what's kind of going to happen at the end. And basically what I'm doing is just making sure that it ends the way I want it to when I write. That's how I write. I sort of aim to the end. So whatever else happens in the middle, of course it affects the ending, but it does all tie into the ending. So I gotta make sure with that. That's pants. Anyway, we're moving on. I don't know if what I was saying made any sense to you, but let me know in the comments. That really, really, really helps to see people reacting and commenting. If you have something to say, it would be nice to know what you have to say or add. If you have something to add, that would be nice to have something to add, and then maybe I can respond to your comments and stuff like that. So this is the end. So yeah. My thoughts on what's been said so far. No one is bad or in the wrong, but they are not exempt from criticism. It's time to say writing advice does writers dirty. What I mean is that writing advice like this. Yeah. Writing advice like this does writers dirty. Because at first, you're giving advice, and then you say, ignore everything, trust your gut. But what if it's a newbie reading the article? Like, you have to think about who the writing advice is for. Is it for people who have been writing for 10 years and they need a little bit more, they want to learn something. They want to level up their craft. Or is it a newbie who's just starting? You should make it clear if it's for newbies. You should figure out who it's for. Yeah. And when I say they are not exempt from criticism, I'm also talking about myself, because I've been giving writing advice to people and realizing later on that those articles that I wrote might be subjective because it's specific to me, or it's specific to a certain genre, or I had thought that I was right, but I was wrong. And those articles that are wrong or misleading, I have gotten rid of most of them. Some of them might still be up. I just haven't had time to go and revamp my writing website. But I'm hoping that after we go through this series that we can figure out what some good writing advice is or better writing advice is by the end of the series. And writing advice in this particular article, I don't think they succeeded. In my opinion, they kind of failed, but that's because the title of the article is misleading. Like, if the title of the article was not 7 tips for writing novels people want to read. If it was tips to be a writer or tips to writing a novel, not that people want to read. I mean, of course, you want to write something that people want to read, but these tips aren't about figuring out how to write a novel that people want to read. You know? So, sticking to the article, what advice would I give? Writing novels people want to read. So, this is my thought process written down in notes here. People, I'm people. What makes me want to read a book? So I think that's where they should have thought, what you think about it right now. What are the books that you've loved? Think about the books you love. Why do you love those books? What makes them so enjoyable? Think about those 4 or 5-star reviews. Think about them. And what do they have in common? So this is my advice. It would be good if you include characters who struggle, have flaws, and still can find moments to smile, and they can make readers cheer them on. So, usually characters in a book, they are having some struggles, they have some flaws, and there's moments where they smile and they are happy, and because those moments are small or they're so few in the beginning and the character is struggling, it makes the readers want to cheer them on. And if readers want to cheer a character on, it makes them want to read the book. Next is stories addressing current situations in fictional settings can help readers relate and think about their own lives. So I was thinking about current books that are extremely popular, that touch upon Black lives or LGBTQAI plus issues, and mental issues, disabilities, and current situations, even current world situations, environment, political affairs, and things going on. People live in this world, and so many of them would be interested in reading books which touch upon those issues, but in a fictional setting. So I think those are books that people would want to read. Discrimination issues, family issues, things that are close that people can relate to. Character relationships, showing the ups and downs. So it's not that a character always has ups. They also have downs. They also have struggles. And these types of downs maybe are ones that can help readers relate. So when we are living our lives, there are moments when we are happy, and there are moments when we are sad, or we are angry, or upset, mad, frustrated about something that's happened to us. If you're a teenager, maybe your parent says you can't go out to see your friends tonight because of whatever reason, or you get your phone taken away, those sort of things. Or it could be big downs, like maybe a divorce, or like some horrible accident, or like a disaster, or other things in life. people struggling maybe with like mental issues and things like that. If a character is also going through a similar thing, it can help people relate. And when people relate, they want to read. It makes them want to read the book, I think. Especially looking at the recent... No, actually, I don't know. No, actually, I don't know much about the recent books. I do know about the books that were coming out from before these recent books. A lot of books with Black characters and Black character struggles, LGBT stuff, and disability and things like that, mental issues, different types of family structures, that kind of thing were coming out. A lot of people are buying it. Means that they want to read it. See where I'm getting that? Yeah. So that's, yeah. And so the end, take 2. I said take 2 because it says the end. And the fox is facing that way. The end, take 2, fox facing this way. So I got these here, these meaning these, what to include, what you can include, not exclusive, I don't really know how to say it, what you can include in your novel that will make readers want to read the book. Character struggles, such and such, stories addressing current situations, character relationships showing the ups and downs for relatability. Not for relatability, but that readers can relate. Help readers relate. This is from reading good books and dissecting why I enjoyed them. Not from listening to writing advice. Hey. So, yeah. Probably, and I gave a note at the end that I shall talk about good and bad books at some point. Yes. So that's it. That is the end of the video. That is the end. We have finally made it. I don't even know how long it's been. If it's been an hour and a half, or 2 hours, I hope you were able to get things done during that time. Or if not, that you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts about this format. I might change it or not. I might change it or not. I might not change it. I might change it or not. I don't know. My brain is fried, by the way, when you're not looking at a script. Basically, you're saying everything that comes into your brain and you're thinking things. So, I want to go back for a sec. We're going back. Tell me what you think about tip number 7. Tell me if you also think it's the most ridiculous thing you have ever heard of. And the other tips. Tell me what you think. Do you know, these tips have nothing to do with writing novels that people want. Nothing to do. Nothing. Nothing at all. My tips have more to do with that. So, do you have anything to add? Any tips to add? Any thoughts on my tips? Do you think that it would be good if you include these things? And that is the end. I don't know how to end video. So I'm just going to end it. And hopefully you will see me in another video. I'm going to try to upload a new video every week or every few weeks because it takes a long time to make these slides. And and then it takes a long time to record, and it's quality over quantity, you know. I'm not just gonna slap slides together or create slides on a whim and just record on a whim. But anyway, if you think this was useful or helpful, if you have any thoughts to add, any tips to add, let me know in the comments down below.